Welcome back to the table, friends. I'm your humble host, GreyDMs, and with me, as always, is Owen.
Hello.
Today, we are also blessed to have Jason at the table.
Heyo. As
we, once again, and not for a second take, turn it over to Owen to start telling us about something interesting.
This is going to be more of a nostalgia trip, honestly. I'm going to talk about some of my experiences growing up and the things I had to do to get a video game and what that was like compared to what it is now. And I was hoping the two of you could lend your own experiences in that matter.
Sick things we had to do.
Terrible.
Just for a little piece of plastic back in the day.
Yeah. Not even a disc. Cartridge. A dirty, dirty cartridge. For players who grew up in the NES era, getting a game usually meant going somewhere. You negotiated for a ride, you walked into a specific building, maybe a big chain video store, maybe a local place tucked into a strip mall. You stood in front of shelves and made a decision that might have to last you weeks. A small cluster of boxes, a handful of names everyone knew, and a lot of titles you only ever saw on that wall. Maybe you had to take the box to the counter once you made a decision, and they would pull the cartridge out of a cabinet of sorts. Maybe they had a system like my local mom and pop shop where there was a little tag on a hook that you took up front instead. They just give you the game. In that world, games were discrete objects, cartridges, and later discs, boxes you could hold, trade, lend, and line up on a shelf. The way someone got a game shaped how seriously they treated it and how long they stayed with it. When access was limited to what a store carried and what a family could afford, saying, "This is one of my games," meant something fairly concrete. It was a physical thing that lived in the same room as the TV. People showed off their collections. Companies made special display racks purpose-built to show off the odd-shaped boxes so the titles were displayed for everyone to see. It was a thing of pride to have enough games to actually fill a rack, and how you came by those games. Maybe you bought it from the store, maybe you got it as a birthday present, or maybe you traded a friend an old title for something that they had and you'd never played. It was all important because it added to the collection. So, for me, NES is where I really started out. My family had an Atari 2600, but even when I was born, that was old and it didn't really get used very much. So we were early adopters of the then famed Nintendo Entertainment System. And for me, maybe that was the beginning of the end. But yeah, that's where I started. I don't know if you guys started similarly.
I started on the Atari 2600.
Did you?
My neighbor had one, and we'd sit there for hours and play Missile Command.
Oh, yeah.
And when I finally got my own system, it was the Atari 7800.
Okay, I never played the 7800.
That was a big step up from 600.
Is that the one that was like wedge shaped?
No, I mean, it kind of looked like the 2600. The controllers were longer and it sat in your hand, and there was a button on each side and then a joystick on the top.
It wasn't just the single button with the joystick.
No, you had two buttons.
Oh my God, that's a 100% increase in buttons.
It was. And then I went from that. I had that for quite a long time, and then there was a Woolworths in town. That was no longer there.
I was going to say, I do not remember a Woolworths anywhere nearby.
It was downtown in the next town over there.
Yeah.
And I went in, and I remember taking it off the shelf, my own NES system. And I even got the upgraded with the gun and duck hunt.
Oh, man, you got the combo.
Yep. And, like you said, the rest is history.
Yeah, so we had a hallway closet that had an old Commodore in it. And then my brother had moved out, and he had an Atari. And he gave it to me. And so that happened well into my NES journey.
Yeah.
And because that was basically when my parents had already okay, games are too expensive.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh crap, there's 30 of these Atari games, and I can, they're not as complicated as
Yeah.
But no, like the family got a Nintendo,
Mm-hmm.
and then everybody played it. I was really young,
Yeah.
and it kind of turned into mine because all the older kids moved out,
Mm-hmm.
and my sister was too young to really play it. And then the next generation was where like it became like mine.
This is Grey's.
Well, because then that was the whole thing where my brother came home and was like, "Hey, I have a Super Nintendo in the trunk of my car." And I was like, "You don't?" And he's like, "Yes, I do." And I was like, "No, you don't." And he's like, "If I do and you don't believe it, you can't have it." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "But if you call me and I am bluffing, I'll buy a Sega and a Super Nintendo for you."
Wow.
And I sat in my room and cried for like 3 hours.
I don't know what to do.
Sophie's choice, that a poor like little kid is just like, I don't know what to do. So I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so then like right before he left, we went to Toys R Us and he's like, "Okay, like go pick out your toy." Cause he's like, "Let me go pick out like a single like Ninja Turtle or something."
Yeah.
And I came walking up and I was like, "I'm going to make him pay." So I bought like the Krang with the big body.
Oh, jeez.
It's like, ooh, it's the bigger toy. And I was like, "Yeah, he's going to get me this." And like, he had a handful of tickets in his hand and he goes handing them to the cashier. And I'm like, "What are those for?" And of course, then the cashier goes and gets the stuff.
Wow.
And it was just like, boom, here's Sega. Boom, here's like 3 games. And like he's sitting there playing, and like just because of my personality, he's playing them on my TV in my room, and I'm just like, "Are you gonna take that with you when you leave?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I might as well just leave it here."
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah. So like yeah, definitely Nintendo. I got the box with our family got the box with the light gun and the double copy of Duck
Yeah, we never. So I think when my family got it, it was before the like combo unit.
Okay, that's what I had. Yeah.
It was before the combo system showed up because it came with like a red gun. Yeah, like my family got like the early version of it, so it just came with Mario Brothers. Like that was the only game we had for a very long time.
Yeah, because they're two. Like if I remember correctly, and I'm saying this so that people will pick me apart if I'm wrong. The launch one is different than the second, like the second release.
Yeah,
and I think
because I do remember we eventually got the light gun, but it was the gray light gun, and it's like you had to buy that one where the red one came with the, or maybe it was the other way around. But we had a gray one.
It just prompted off of stuff. So what accessories did you have access to?
Jack and shit. I had 2 controllers and eventually that light gun.
Yeah.
A friend of mine had the robot.
That's my whole thing is like we scoped out the neighborhood and knew who had what. Because my buddy had the track and field pad. He also had the turbo controller.
Yeah.
So like I just knew if you were playing a game that needed a turbo controller, you went over and played at his house. I had 3 kids in my class who had the Power Glove. God. And I kept trying to worm my way in to go into a sleepover where I could get some time.
Yeah.
Because it's so bad.
Wow, I've totally forgotten about these things.
Right?
See, it's funny. When I was in grade school, the majority of the kids I went to school with were, I don't want to say broke, but they weren't, like their families weren't super well off. But one kid in particular, his dad was like a bank manager and his mom worked at the bank too. So they were loaded and he was an only child. So he had Nintendo, he had the Power Pad, he had the Power Glove, he had all the controllers, he had the robot, he had everything there, and pretty much whenever a new game came out, he got the new game. And he couldn't understand, like no one really liked him, and he couldn't understand whenever he would have like people over, all they wanted to do was play on his Nintendo. You're like, "Can we go out and play basketball?" No, we're all just going to play Nintendo. He was also the one that had, what was the name of it? It was a VHS that you played, and then you had like a handheld controller thing that had like spaceship on it.
Was it Captain Power or something?
I don't remember what it was called, but like
Oh,
you played along with the video
Yeah,
thing and
'cause
like lights on the screen, like you had to move it out of the
I had
way
the
and stuff like
F-14
that.
version of it.
Yeah.
Where it was like an F-14 that you did it when.
Yeah.
It was just a light gun, but like it was,
Like he had that, and everybody's like, "Oh my god!" He was the kid that had the full GI Joe aircraft carrier.
Jeez, that was the aspiration every time you walk into Toys R Us. Is you look up on the top shelf and be like, "That thing's nice." It's a child coffin.
Could sail down the old miss in that. Yeah. So, what did it take for you guys to get a new game?
Begging and pleading.
Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah. Like for me, it was birthday or Christmas. That was it.
Birthday or Christmas was the only time I get access to something. We had like 3 different places that could rent them.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing. So you could, and that was what we'd go through our trial process.
Yeah.
Because we'd be going through our rental process and we'd be making notes. Okay, well, I guess I can compare it. And Mega Man 2 might be worth more than Ninja Turtles 1. But let me give it 3 more points to
talk about that in a bit.
Yeah. But like, once again, with NES, it was pretty straightforward because like, I think like the 3 or 4 kids that I was friends with and then like my best friend all had NESs.
Yeah.
So our whole thing was we would organize to make sure no one got duplicate games.
So you could just rotate every once in a while?
Yeah, because it was just like, we had the Mega Man stream coming in. I was the one who had all the Ninja Turtle games. Like, we were just trying to rotate to make sure everybody had access to it. And there's this kid that I remember for the longest time kept begging to come over. And my mom was like, you do realize he just wants to have access to your Nintendo. And I was like, I don't understand because all these other kids have them. And he's like, yeah, but he hasn't played enough Ninja Turtles and he just wants to get access to Ninja Turtles. But my biggest sin was that I put all that stuff up on a garage sale. It was the only system I ever let go.
Yeah.
My 7800 still at my dad's. Somewhere.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
We might want to dust that thing off at some point to see what it can get up to.
I remember when I got my NES going back and playing the 7800 a lot because I couldn't get games for the NES.
Yeah.
So it's like I only have like 2 games and I'm tired of shooting the dog.
My best friend, like his parents, so like both of us had like stay-at-home moms. Both of our dads were not like we were on the lower end of the areas that we lived in, so because like my family, we had a big family, and my dad was kind of getting restarted over. His dad was like U.S. Customs. So like it just, not super highly paid. But I remember his parents, especially his dad, would come home with the bootleg stuff.
Yeah.
And he'd come home with like, some knockoff games. Like, there's 1,000 games in this cartridge. Yeah. Surely that's worth more than, and we put in and we're like, 8 of these are the same Battle Tank game. Like, what is this? But he had Game Genie.
Yeah. Yep.
He had the physical game. Yeah. And we're all like looking through, what is this thing? We got to read all the magazine and try to figure out.
Absolutely. Yep. Early console games lived on in cartridges, sturdy plastic shells that clicked into place and stayed the same for as long as the hardware worked. Maybe you had to blow on them, slide them in just right, give them the console a little tap so the pin seated correctly. It's part of the ritual. So was standing in front of a shelf, knowing you had one shot and trying to decide what to buy or rent from the box store. And you could only really tell what you might or might want from the art on the box. That's all you really knew. In the mid to late NES years, those boxes might have been Super Mario Brothers, Kid Icarus, Castlevania, Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Mega Man, DuckTales, or Final Fantasy. All released within a few years of each other, all competing for the same handful of spots in a rental aisle or behind a glass case. For most people, the choice came down to whatever little piece of art and back box blurb managed to grab them in that moment. Buying a game instead of renting usually meant dealing with those glass cases at department stores and big box chains. Rows of boxes sat facing outward under locked doors, each with its logo and cover art on display. To get more information, someone had to unlock the case so you could take it out and read the back.
Yep.
For many players, that back panel was the entire sales pitch. A few small screenshots, a short description, a list of features, Mode 7 racing, battery backup, over 60 hours of gameplay. PC games exaggerated the same idea with big cardboard boxes in electronic aisles. Wolfenstein 3D, Ultima Underworld, TIE Fighter, SimCity 2000, Quake, Diablo, Baldur's Gate. Dozens or hundreds of titles that most people had never seen advertised anywhere else, all competing for attention with nothing but artwork.
Wing Commander.
Printed media filled in some of the gaps. Company magazines like Nintendo Power and later multi-platform magazines brought previews, maps, and early reviews into the living rooms once a month. Dedicated strategy guides from publishers like Prima Games and Brady Games turned a smaller group of titles, mostly big RPGs and fighting games, into long-term projects people could study between play sessions. Publishers and marketers learned pretty quickly that those moments in front of the shelf were leverage. Licensed games based on movies and cartoons showed up everywhere. Superhero films, Saturday morning shows, toy lines, fast food mascots. Characters bounced between TV blocks, breakfast cereal boxes, fast food kids' meals, and the cartridge art in the rental aisle. All aimed at the same kids who would be standing there trying to convince an adult to say yes. The most famous cautionary tale is the E.T. game on the early Atari 2600, a tie-in rushed to catch a film's release that sold on name recognition and advertising more than anything on the screen. But the basic pattern kept going into the NES and 16-bit years. A big movie or cartoon almost guaranteed a game, whether or not there was a strong design underneath it. Even brands like Super Mario ended up in strange places, with the 1993 live-action movie and its marketing push creating a kind of halo of merchandise and expectations that didn't always line up with the actual game people took home. Underneath all that cross-promotion, a lot of players still made choices half-blind. An aggressive ad campaign or a familiar logo could push a weak tie-in into someone's weekend, simply because that box was the one they recognized and grabbed at the right moment.
And also to be like, people nowadays are absolutely spoiled.
Yes.
Because you had to, like, anything that promoted a game or talked about it, like, they had to try to get a screen grab of the graphics, and that was almost always some blurry picture that didn't make sense.
It was either blurry or it had to fit on the back of this small box that was already loaded with words, paragraphs, so it was about the size of your thumb.
Yeah, so it was like, I don't even know what this is, and just all that was like this archaic, weird level of mystique around it. I just remembered an entire store we used to rent from that I could have not thought of in like 30 years.
When I was writing this, that was one of the things, like that first paragraph where I was talking about you had to take a little tag, like you'd walk in and you'd see all the boxes on a wooden shelf, and then there'd be a little hook underneath it with a white tag that had a number on it. And this is like some mom and pop store. They might have had 15 games total. And you'd walk in and you'd be like, oh, look at all these games. And you'd realize that almost all of the tags are gone, which meant it was rented out.
Yeah, there's this place, I think it was next to Little Caesars. And I'm thinking about it. I remember going in there and just absolutely, like, my mom was probably picking out a movie, and I was agonizing between Aliens and I think it was like Alien 3 and the side-scrolling Avengers game. And I'm just like going back and forth, and I wanted to play the Aliens one, but I was like, I'm going to be scared. I'm scared. You know, and I'm like, oh,
I know my own audience. I'm going to be scared.
And I think I took home the side-scrolling Avengers game instead. So scroll and beat them up.
Yep.
Yeah, you were talking about games with brands. I remember my sister brought home a game, and it was MC Kids, but everybody called it McKids. And it was a side-scrolling game, and Mick and Mac, I don't remember who the 2-player characters you could be was or whatever, but you're scrolling through McDonald's land.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like you said, it'd be anything popular, it became a video.
Oh, yeah, all the weird games.
Well, you remember the Noid from Domino's? They actually made a Noid game.
The Spot.
Yeah. Yep, the 7-Up Spot.
Yeah. I rented that game a bunch.
Did you really?
It was actually pretty good.
So what's a game that you rented or bought that you were like, yeah, this is going to be awesome, and then it just was a turd?
Oh, I remembered Zombie Ate My Neighbors.
Really? I actually loved that one.
I wasn't ready for it. And I rented it, and I remember like,
man, I played the hell out of that game.
I was going like, I don't like this. And my mom came in, and I was like, Mom, it's got zombies. It's scary. I didn't know. Could you swap it out for some? She went and
Wow.
yeah, like I pulled that card. Trying to think, like
It's okay, little Grey.
so the Ninja Turtles thing was like when I think back, I think of all the games I had, but I didn't have that many.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them were like, once again, my brother who's in the military would come home and be like, here's 4 games that I've all played through and I don't want them anymore. And that would like double my collection. But like the games I fought for, because I remember we had the Super Mario Duck Hunt. I got Ninja Turtles 1, the one that is just like, what is this game?
It's funny because I remember playing the hell out of that game, but I never owned it.
I was at kids' sleepover party, this like very nice house, basically like giant house there were like 13 kids there, and he got 2 games. He got Gunsmoke and he got that game, and everybody's like, let's play Gunsmoke, and me and like 3 other kids were like, no. It says Ninja Turtles on it. Put it in the goddamn TV. Like, and I remember, like, the people kept grinding on the game, trying to get past the dam level.
Yeah,
and, like, we just couldn't do it.
Dude, we had sessions like before school started where we'd all just sit down and talk about our thoughts on how to beat certain things. We'd draw out maps of the dam, like how you had to get through and everything.
And the other thing was, I remember, was like, if you owned a game, you were the subject matter expert of that game.
Yeah.
So everybody knew. They're like, you got to go talk to this
look
person.
to you.
Because I knew people like my best friend had Mega Man. So like he was the guy that we talked to, and he would have like these sheets of loose leaf paper with the little dot matrices that were the save things. Just so he was like,
so you could just put the save in.
He's like, where do you want to start, man? Wherever you want to go.
Before you get these dots, you got to show me some green.
It's like, you're going to want to start with Metal Man already done, okay? Because that's going to set you up for success across the board. You know, like,
that man's now a used car salesman. He's on his 5th wife.
But my other buddy was like the only one he could get to the last stage on DuckTales. And like, even playing now, like I can't master that game because you have to
I beat that game. Yeah. I beat
but
that
like
game
he could always get to the moon base or whatever.
Yep.
And like we'd sit there and I'd be like, is he gonna beat it this time? And he's like, failed next time, Or
see, it's funny because one of the big ones at my school was Mike Tyson's Punch Out, where everybody could get to I can't remember what was the name of the Mr. Sandman. That was the second to last guy, and they couldn't beat him. Or no, what was it? We could beat Mr. Sandman, but we couldn't beat Mike Tyson. And then there was this other kid who's just like, well, I can beat Mike Tyson, but I can never beat Mr. Sandman. So they're always just like, we got to get together and we got to swap.
I could never get past the Oriental guy. I don't remember what his name was. The guy that hit you with the cane.
God, hit you with the cane. Wow.
I could always pick up that.
It's been so long, I don't even remember.
Fly through everybody until that guy, and I could never figure out that combo.
Yeah, I was never great at it. I got stuck on Bald Bull all the time.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, you just wait for him to charge it, and you do a gut punch.
I know, but so here's the thing, okay? Like this is early on where like you could maybe find something that, gave you hints on something. And again, that kid that I went to school with had a Nintendo Power. And I was just like, dude, you got to give me something. I can't get past this guy. And he brings in the Nintendo Power. He wouldn't let me borrow it, but he'd let me read the blurb. And the blurb was like, you got to make sure you throw the punch at his 5th hop. And I'm just like, okay, so I have to count the hops. Oh man, how are you supposed to count those hops?
Do you remember when up, down, and
the Contra code
start?
Yep.
Yeah. That was everywhere.
Like every game that came out, you're trying it just to see if it worked.
Yep.
Yeah, like so there was a place in the mall that sold games that was like, that's all it did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it was a really shallow, like, like what you kind of like if you go into like a weed store, not a weed store now, but a vape store. Where it's just like
there's a counter and
in it. But what they had was 2 sets of 3 like 20-inch TVs, and they would just constantly
have
show
some kind of game going.
And if you walked inside, you could then play on the games. And so I would just, every time we go to the mall, I'd just sit there and I'd watch people play games. And I'd be like, oh my God, that's how this works, or that's how this works, or whatever. And you could ask them in the store, like, hey, we're thinking of playing this game. Could you put one of them in one of the machines? And like, I remember that like that was it's kind of like that was like that was where like I think I got one or two of my games, but like I think total in all, I ended up with maybe 5 or 6 Nintendo games, and then like a 10 that my brother gave me later on, and that was it. My parents had already had enough.
Yeah.
They were like, done. We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, for NES, that was kind of the way it was for me too. Almost every game I played was like borrowed from someone else. Like I literally only had like maybe 4 or 5 games, and everything else was a rental. So one of the bridges, I won't say which one, but one of the bridges when I was a kid was under construction for a long time, and there's a rental place that's right in front of that bridge. And because that bridge was under construction, all of the businesses around there were like doing anything they could to bring business in, because there's no reason to go that way unless you're going over the bridge. And they had a deal where it was like $5. You could pick 5 games and you could have them for 7 days.
Oh, gold mine.
Oh my God. Like every weekend. I was like, we have to go. Like, Mom, we have to go to this place. And she's like, you have the 5 game, you know, like you don't, you know, why, you know, like I'll drop them off when I go to work.
Ladder,
but that was my whole thing. But that was my introduction into Final Fantasy, because again, it was one of those situations where I was just like, I got to pick 5 games. And I was just like, oh, Mom's in a hurry. I have to pick 5 games. Like, oh, Final Fantasy, I'll just grab that. And I grabbed it, and that started a thing that hasn't ended to this day. But
yes, it's so ironic, because I remember playing, like, I even think like even Zelda, I was like, ooh, this is too like, I gotta read stuff, you know.
I can it's
I know you can see it.
I can see it, but it's hilarious because at the same time there's certain aspects where like just one little key flick in the way the game is designed or the way the hook comes in, it completely changes how it'll be like, this is one of the most in-depth games you have to get into. I can't believe Grey would want to play this. And he's just like, yeah, I've mastered everything about this game.
Yeah, the big one was when I rented, like, I think it's a Secret of Mana.
Yeah.
And I got that one.
That is one that I was
owned,
like, yeah.
What is this?
You have to level up the weapons?
I have to choose hit?
Yeah.
I don't get to do anything in this game. I was so like incensed that it was like, this is, you know, I'll never do that again.
I had the one that was a gold. The cartridge was gold.
Yeah, the Zelda. It was one of the 2 Zelda games. So it was either the first or the second one.
Almost all of them had that.
Crap out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost all the Zeldas had a gold copy that was released, because that's like what people collect.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the buddies, the guy who had all this stuff, he had, so that this needs to be said. The only reason I had a TV in my room was because my dad did not want me playing Nintendo downstairs anymore. It cut into his time. So he went and he took the TV out of the kitchen. That was a 13-inch black and white TV, and was like, we hooked that up to it. And then eventually I started like, oh, sorry, it wasn't black and white. There was a 13-inch color TV, but like, you know, the old knob crank. Yeah. And he ripped the antenna off it, and he was like, well, you don't need to watch TV. This is just for Nintendo. And so like a day later, he came in, and I had coat hangers all rigged up to like, so where I could watch TV with it. And he was like, so the next year he just got me a TV because he was just like, I lost this fight. But my buddy, they had a mounted TV in the corner of his room.
Oh my God.
You know, hooked with like a built-in VHS player hooked into the gaming system. So you'd sit there and you'd be like, this is like a hotel. This is so fancy, you know? And like, yeah, he was the place where like he would have like almost all the games.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy.
Yeah. So I'd go over there and I'd be like, oh, we're going to play all these games.
And something that's crazy to think about too is games then still cost like $50 or $60.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's never really changed.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like the big games, because I was a big fan of like side-scrolling beat-em-ups.
Yeah. And
those are the games where you need that second person with you, because you need to like take advantage of the extra lives.
Double Dragon.
Heck yeah.
Contra.
Yep. Ninja Turtles 2, Ninja Turtles 3.
My wife bought one of the little new, it looks like a mini NES.
Yeah.
It's got like 200 games on it or something.
Yeah, somebody I know gave me one that looks like a original Game Boy that's got like 1,000 games in it.
Yeah, that thing was.
Yeah, 99% of them I've never heard of.
Yeah. Well, there were a ton of Nintendo games, like original NES games. There were so many of them, and we'll talk about it. So as home libraries grew beyond a handful of cartridges, another layer of ecosystem appeared: used game shops. In malls and strip malls, small specialty stores started to show up. Chains like Electronics Boutiques and Funkoland, along with plenty of local one-offs. Their windows were full of console boxes and controllers. Inside, the walls were lined with pre-owned games in various states of wear. NES and Super Nintendo carts with stickers half scraped off, Genesis clamshells with sun-faded spines, a growing row of PlayStation jewel cases like Crash Bandicoot, Resident Evil, Gran Turismo, sports titles with last year's rosters, and a copy of Final Fantasy VII someone finished and moved on from. Heathens.
Disrespect.
The business model was simple. You could bring in the games you already owned and trade them for store credit. A stack that had taken years to collect, birthday presents, holiday gifts, 1 or 2 full-price purchases, could be turned into enough credits for a single new release or a couple of older ones. The math was rarely generous, but for a lot of younger players, it was the only realistic way to keep moving through a system's library. Over time, that process quietly reshaped collections. Favorite carts and discs disappeared 1 or 2 at a time, replaced by something newer. Boxes that had lived under a TV for years ended up in a glass cabinet or budget racks with small round stickers marking their new prices. Those stores also worked as a kind of status board for the whole hobby. The amount of shelf space given to each system showed which consoles were on the way out. Seeing 20 copies of the same wrestling game or racing title in the used bin said something about how common they were. An occasional oddity, a Japanese import, a strange peripheral, an RPG with a surprisingly high price tag hinted at corners of the scene that didn't show up in rental aisles or big box cases. It was still very physical. Games came in and went out as objects, passed from one player to another over the same worn countertops.
Yeah, so we're skipping time because go through all the Sega stuff, Super Nintendo stuff.
Yep.
And then I remember like not playing video games, getting into sports, getting into, playing like computer stuff, but like computer stuff was just different. And then I remember sleeping over at my buddy's place, and he's like, "Well, I got a PlayStation." And he's like, "I got like this hockey game," and I was like, And he's like, "Tomorrow, I'm gonna go pick up Final Fantasy." I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" You know? He's like, "We're gonna play it," and we walked from his house up to Blockbuster to buy the strategy guide, and I sat with the strategy guide on my lap, and we started playing and went through the whole Midgard scene, and I was like, "This is my life." I immediately started doing side jobs stuff to get, and I could only afford the PlayStation.
Yeah.
I could not afford the memory card
or
the game.
Yeah. Yep.
So like I played the demo disc so much, I memorized every, like there was a Tomb Raider 2 demo, and I memorized a sequence of moves to get Laura through the entire demo that I would just do. I would practice and wrote like. Because like they had the whole thing where like if you walk to a ledge and jump, she'd do one move, but if you slow walk to it and press jump at the right time, she would do like a fancy version of the move. And I had all those nailed the whole way through. And I was just, it was like a jet ski game, that one. And I was just like, and then I saved up to buy a memory card and Final Fantasy VII, and life was forever changed.
Yeah.
It was over.
Yeah.
I got a job, and every paycheck went to PC game or went to PlayStation games.
Yep.
The first walkthrough I ever bought was for Metroid.
And
it was like
the original Metroid?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was like gold. I'd read it in my off time. I had to get through the game.
The first one I bought was for Final Fantasy V. Because that game, or 5, excuse me, 6, Final Fantasy 6. Yes, that game opened a world to me. Like for you, it was 7. For me, it was 6. And so I rented that game when it first came out and just absolutely fell in love with it. But anytime after that point, whenever I'd go to rent it, it was out. Someone had already rented it because they only had one. So for Christmas, I had talked my mom into buying it for me. But this is around October. And like, it was a thing where she's just like, okay, I'll buy you one video game for Christmas. What do you want? And I was like, I want that one. She's like, all right, and she buys it. I was like, sweet. So I got home, grabbed the game, start to walk towards the my Super Nintendo. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm going to go play this game. She's like, no, that's a Christmas present.
That's torture.
And I was like, what? And she's like, no, you can't play that till Christmas. So she took it. She took it and hid it. And basically on the weekend, whenever her and my dad were not home, I'd sneak upstairs and I found it. So I took a razor and I slit the packaging open, pulled the box out, because this is when they still came in like a cardboard box, pulled the box out, got the game out, put a different game in the box, sealed it back up again, put it back, and then had played that game and almost beat it by the time Christmas came around. But that's the part where the game guide comes in, because I got stuck at one particular part where I just could not figure out what to do. And this is pre-internet, and none of my friends were into this type of game. So I was the only one that had a Final Fantasy game. So I talked my mom into buying me the strategy guide. And then she's like, well, is that for that game you got upstairs? I was like, yeah, but I just kind of want to read and see, how, get ready for it, whatever. So, beat the game. Christmas comes around, beat the game. Christmas morning, she hands me the box. She's like, I know you've been waiting for this. I was like, oh boy. And I opened it up. I was like, that's great. Set it down. If she caught on, she never said anything.
Wow.
But yeah, like I played that game for 2.5 months before I was supposed to ever have it. It was great.
So don't throw anything at me, but Final Fantasy, is it 7, the one with the guy with the like giant sword?
It's like 7, 8, 9.
But like 7's the classic.
That's the fear, the spiky blonde hair dude. Yeah.
So that's the only one I've ever played.
Yep.
And
not surprised. Like that's the one that got the most push from that point.
And I don't know. I beat it because I remember the ending scene was kind of cool. But that was the only Final Fantasy I ever tried.
That's okay. Like I played the NES and the Super NES versions. I played 7. I played a little bit. No, I played 8. I played a little bit of 9. Like 9 was the one they're like, we're going back to big heads, and
it was the Crystal Chronicles.
Yeah, that I couldn't really get into, and then 10 I played X whatever, and that was about it. Like I stopped at that point.
Yeah, because like when we were in the apartment, 11's the MMO. 12 came out, and someone in the apartment was playing, or
Max was playing it.
Yeah, and so like you kind of sit down and watch. I played like I skipped 12, went back and tried to do a good push through it, but 13 I bounced off so hard.
I don't know. I don't know if it's the style that they've kind of leaned into that I just can't get into.
And then like 15 I played for 30, 40 hours and stopped. So I have 16, but it's been sitting on the shelf, and and then I have the remake stuff for 7. But like it was, for me, it was a thing where it was like, I don't like these games.
Mm-hmm.
I played this game. This game is not my life. And I just started collecting JRPGs.
Yeah.
And I burned through that. I burned through Chrono Cross. I burned through Legends of Dragoon. I burned through Xenogears. I was literally going to the store. Like as soon as I got a paycheck, I'd go right to freaking either Target, Walmart. I go to like where you had to like get one of the people to open up the sliding glass thing, and I was just like, where is the next one? Where is the next one? I said, oh no, we got Brave Fencer Musashi.
Oh man,
for one of the demo discs in it. Yeah, that's. But like I had a dual thing, because like the two types of games I liked were JRPGs and the turret control, like Silent Hill, Resident Evil games.
Yeah.
So anything in those two genres, I just like would blitz. So Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, like just, and then of course all the JRPG stuff, even the weird stuff. Vagrant Hearts.
Vagrant Hearts. Yep.
Oh my gosh. Vagrant Hearts is a freaking art story that needs, people don't, that game is beautiful.
Do you mean Vagrant Story?
Vagrant Story. So
Yes.
it's Vagrant Hearts.
I don't know.
Maybe it was just jumbled.
Yeah, Vagrant Hearts is a game that like I played the hell out of for a long time, stopped, and then maybe 5 years later picked it back up again. I was like, man, I forgot how good this game was.
Vagrant Story was one of the ones where like, because it had a type matchup,
Yes.
I played it until I ran into that, got super frustrated, stopped playing it. Eventually one day went back, read what like that meant,
Right.
then beat the game. Like went back and like was like, this is awesome.
Kind of going back a little bit. I didn't have like a video game group of people. So the one kid that did live by me, he had a Sega and he had Hang On for it, the motorcycle race on road racing game. And I think he had that and Shinobi. And so for Hang On, we would turn his TV up as loud as it would go. And he had a fan, and we set it on top of the TV. So
it's like we're riding.
Yeah, so you have the fan blowing at you. It'd be super loud, and we would sit there and do that for hours and hours and hours.
So, regrets. I regret trading in my PlayStation 1 and all the games I had to get a PlayStation 2 and Onimusha.
Oh, Onimusha series.
Yeah. I remember when I first started playing that, like my brother came home and he's like, what movie is this? And I'm like, it's not a movie. This is a video game.
I love that it's just in the same moments in time that we were both working at the same place. You were just like, I have to be physically responsible and I still have to find a way to get the thing I want. And I was like, I don't need money. Bye. And so like at that time I was penniless. You have a house, but I had all this. Like it was just, yeah, no, the garage sale where I sold the Atari and the Nintendo all to buy a Game Gear and then realized it absorbed so many AA batteries I could never play it.
Yeah.
Was the thing that told me I would never trade in anything. And I never did. So I have everything after that in boxes.
Yeah. My Super Nintendo and my PlayStation. Like it's funny because every time we walk into game resale place, I'm just like, oh my God, I have thousands of dollars worth of very rare sought after games that I practically gave away.
Dude, Sega 32X, Sega CD.
You know,
like there's some of those games like the Spider-Man game for Sega CD. Like because Max played the Sega version of it, and the Sega CD version was the same thing, except that now you had the CD. They had full motion cartoon cutscenes that like basically allowed you to do anything, and it was just bigger because there were more spaces for you to go. And I rented that game over and over and over again because it was like you're basically playing through the cartoon.
Yeah.
And it was just like every stage was like a new villain was released. So all of a sudden Venom was going out, and the only way you could defeat Venom was basically have him chase you up to the clock tower and then start like web swinging into the hell. And then it would show the cutscene of like the Venom symbiote leaving him. That was so good. Oh my God.
I want to say the first game I ever got emotionally attached to was Telltale, the zombie.
Walking Dead. Oh my God. That was the first time I ever.
Insane.
It was the first time I ever felt like a dad. I was just like Clementine.
I know.
Or
Clementine.
Yeah,
Clementine. Yep.
Clementine will remember this.
And she's just like, you got to kill me, Clementine. I'm gonna turn in front of you.
Yeah.
You're just
and
like,
she has to kill the dude.
And then like you start the next one and you're so fiercely protective over her.
Yeah.
You're just like, anybody messes with this little girl, I will rip her.
Yeah, and the family that's going with him at the train, and he has to go kill his. Oh my God!
And the weird branching paths where if you do everything right, you get to the point where that dude is supposed to basically be a villain, and instead he's just like, I'm a broken person.
Yeah.
Let me die, like Bill or whatever. Oh.
Isn't it screwed up that you guys are talking about this series of games that, I mean, you're not the only ones that have talked about the Telltale games and how, just heartbreaking and good it is, and they're out of business.
Yeah. The games are so good. I guess there's a Batman one too that my son played, and he said that was pretty good.
Yeah, they're saying the Batman series is because a lot of younger kids are like, well, we grew up on the Batman one. And I was like, okay. And there's also, they did the comic where they take all the fairy tale characters, like the Big Bad Wolf as a detective or whatever.
Oh, okay.
They did a series for that too.
Did they? I didn't know that.
Because you're like the Big Bad Wolf as the detective. Yeah, those.
Yeah, the other ones are just like video games, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm into first-person shooters, so like the Modern Warfare, you learn who the characters are, and you're kind of into it that way. But nothing like wrecked me like that one.
I played that game almost around the exact same time I played Last of Us.
See, I haven't
the
played
double
that
whammy on that. Yeah, you should play Last of Us.
It's the same thing kind of happens where like you're playing a father figure. And The Last of Us, they get into the whole, the spoilers. Take a minute if you want to walk away, but for whoever would ever listen to this, they get to the point where like the end of the movie, the end of the show, they're like, this is the point where everything is kind of culminated to something's supposed to happen, but then you end up in this scenario where like father figure realizes that his daughter figure needs to be sacrificed, and they put you in a situation where they don't even tell you a prompt to do. You just walk in, she's on the table, there's 2 nurses and a doctor, and you have a gun in your hand. And you're just like, yeah, boom, 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 take the kid. And I just walked out and I was like, I just murdered 3 people. I've played so many violent games, but in that moment I was like, I had to do this. And then she wakes up and you have to decide whether or not to lie to her.
Oh,
and
wow.
like, she's like, you're saying it didn't work. And you're like, are you sure it didn't work? Tell me, like, you cannot lie to me about this. Are you saying it? And you're like, there's no chance of it working because that's my sin, not yours.
Right.
And you're like, I put that way and I was like, oh, I don't know.
Made a TV show.
And the first season did a great job.
Okay, because I haven't watched it yet. Because
watch-
I've heard
you'll
it was pretty dark.
Yeah,
so.
you'll see everything. First season. So.
We need to move on.
Well, to be fair, these are like the holiday ones.
I know.
Dear listener, forgive us for our sins.
When consoles and PCs moved from cartridges to floppy disks to CDs, the look of game shelves changed long before the underlying habits did. On the console side, systems like the PlayStation and Saturn brought jewel cases into living rooms. Instead of cardboard boxes and plastic carts, there were slim plastic cases stacked side by side. Tekken, Tomb Raider, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Ridge Racer, Metal Gear Solid, Silent Hill, Suikoden, Vagrant Story. Annual sports games with new cover athletes and a lot of mid-tier licensed titles that came and went in a year or two. On PC, big cardboard packages didn't disappear right away, but they did start to shrink. By the late 90s, you had long runs of CD and DVD cases in electronic stores with names like Half-Life, StarCraft, Age of Empires, Thief, Unreal, System Shock, The Sims, and Diablo, sitting shoulder to shoulder with budget compilations and shovelware discs and flimsy boxes. For players, the routine stayed familiar. You walked those aisles, pulled the case off the rack, flipped it over, and tried to decide whether the screenshots and the bullet points justified the price. A lot of games lived or died entirely on that moment. If a cover didn't land or if a store never ordered a particular title, there might not be another chance to discover it. Once a disc did come home, it usually became part of the landscape. Jewel cases stacked next to the TV or monitor, spindles of loose CDs stored in binders, maybe a couple of big, older PC boxes kept around because they had thick manuals, maps, or tech trees folded up inside. It was still obvious, looking around a room, that someone owned and what platforms they cared for. So for me, we talked earlier about the Game Genie. Back to Final Fantasy VI. I was in high school at the time, and again, this is still early internet period, and there was a kid I went to school with that he had internet access, and we got on the topic of talking about video games and stuff, and I mentioned I had a Game Genie for my Super Nintendo, and he's like, oh, did you want codes for it? I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, there are whole web pages devoted to just finding codes for Game Genie.
Gamefacts.com.
Gamefacts.com, absolutely. Man, I can't even think of the last time I went there.
How many times you were like, I got this game. I got to go look up what the
Yeah.
what's the best, who came up with the best ASCII art.
Yeah.
This is the path to the dungeon. XXX dash 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 XXX circle.
But like that's, I don't want to sound like a downer on it, but I kind of feel like that's the time period where our version of gaming started to disappear.
It is.
Because any question, once I had a computer and I had internet access, any question I had about a game, I could find somebody that knew the answer.
And people would start saying this is the correct way to do this.
Yes, this is the only way you should do this. Yeah. Yeah. So are there any games that you guys discovered around this time period that you knew nothing about and you just happened to be like, that looks cool, I want to buy it?
Oh, StarCraft.
StarCraft?
Ooh.
Yep. I'm like, well, that looks kind of neat. I get so angry at that game. Just when you think you got your place built, just the way you like it,
You get zerged.
Annihilated.
Yep.
Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah. Really?
Like I was in the mall and I walked in and I was just like, there's an RPG about Star Wars. And I was like, oh, it's by the company that plays the game I play online all the time.
Neverwinter Nights.
And then like, I want to say I sat down on the bench and I either was like talking to you or someone, like I was calling or something like, have you heard of this? Oh, I got to try this game. And I took it home and I played it on the Xbox first. And I was like, this is a fundamental part of my being now has changed.
For me, I think I've told Grey this before. So me and Max, we would go to Hollywood Video, and that's where we rented a lot of our stuff from. And they had a bin towards the front that was full of games and movies that they're just getting rid of. And we went in one Friday to rent a movie, and I see this game sitting in the top of the bin for like $5, PlayStation game. And I'm just like, oh, I mean, that kind of looks cool. Like there's robots and stuff in it. And Max is just like, oh, I think I rented that game once. It was garbage. So I was like, oh, okay. And we left. The next Friday we show up. It's sitting in that same spot. It's still $5. I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna get this game. So I bought it, not realizing that I had won the lottery. Like this is one of the best games I've ever played. It's called Xenogears. If you've never played Xenogears for the PlayStation, it is a fantastic game, a fantastic story. It's a shame what happened to it.
Yeah.
It's not complete. It was in development at the same time Final Fantasy VII was in development, both Square games, and all of the money went towards Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, in fact, it was started as Final Fantasy VII.
Was it?
Yeah, because Square does the thing where like they'll launch the two projects and then they make the decision on
which one
to become it.
Oh man, they freaking missed out on that one, I think.
Yeah, but it was also like if you dig a little bit further into it, you find out it was basically written and produced by a like husband-wife combo. And the husband basically, who was the director or the producer, was just like he had never produced a game before.
No,
So,
he
like,
did a bang up job.
He couldn't have he didn't know how to manage the right people to get things done.
Yeah.
Which doesn't take away from what he did. It just that's why it failed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could spend the next hour talking about this game. All that needs to be said is like, it is my personality.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the difference between us was that the guy who I was playing Final Fantasy VII with came across a one-page ad that just had well tall looking off a cliff into the distance, and it said stand tall and shake hands.
And Grace was like, that's me.
Yeah, we both were like, what is this and how can I get it? So then I bought some game and I found
had the demo in it or something.
I kept saying it was Brave Fencer Musashi, but it's not. I looked it up online and it had a demo disc. And in the demo disc, two of the characters show up early and they're like, we're not supposed to be here, but we just wanted you to have a better idea of how combat's going to be. So have fun for the next 30 minutes. And you go and you basically complete the first like little village part, and then it ends on the cutscene, and you're like, "What just happened? He murdered everybody in the village. Take all my money and my future, please. Tell me this story. I need to know."
That was such a good game.
It was great.
So in the early 2000s, a quieter shift started in the background. On PC, services like Steam first showed up as utilities. Valve used Steam to deliver updates and digital versions of its own games, most visibly Counter-Strike and a little later Half-Life 2 and Counter-Strike Source, without needing boxed copies or manual pitches. At first, it was just that launcher you have to install for one game. Over the next few years, it turned into a story. Early third-party titles and small experiments began to appear alongside Valve's own work. Things like Ragdoll Kung Fu, Darwinia, and a handful of modestly sized shooters and strategy games that would never have justified a full retail run on their own. On consoles, online services were moving in the same direction. The original Xbox introduced downloadable content for Xbox Live, and by the time the Xbox 360 arrived in 2005, Xbox Live Arcade was putting small downloadable games like the original Geometry Wars and Uno Classic Arcade re-releases straight onto hard drives. Early PlayStation Network on the PS3 did similar things with downloadable-only titles like Flow and Super Stardust HD, sitting next to full retail games in the same digital menu. The underlying idea was simple. Instead of a disc or a cartridge, there would be a user account. Purchases were recorded against that account, and games could be downloaded on any compatible machine that signed in. For players with decent connections, the advantages were obvious. No stock shortages, no scratch discs, no hunting around fan sites for patch files. Whole libraries could be installed, deleted, and reinstalled wherever there was space. Visually, collections changed shape. Instead of rows of plastic cases on a shelf, there were lists and grids of icons on a screen, a growing number next to the word library, pages of titles in alphabetical order, filters of genre and install status. The regular trip to a store became less important. It became easier to buy something because it was on sale at midnight rather than because it was sitting eye level in a glass case. Underneath, the structure was different than it had been purely physical media. Games were no longer tied to a specific object in a specific room. They were tied to login credentials and a service continuing to operate. But at this stage, for most people, the day-to-day existence still felt close enough to what came before that it didn't raise many questions. The noticeable change was simply that more games were reachable from more places with less effort than ever before. So, as long as I've known you, Grey, you have been a hard copy type of person. Like I really enjoyed that movie. I'm going to go to the store and buy the disc for it. Or I really enjoyed this game. I'm going to buy it. You continued to buy the WoW collector's editions long after World of Warcraft went to just
I think I got
downloading.
into where you couldn't get it anymore.
Yeah.
When they were like, oh, the next version is only going to be digital, digital collectors only. But like there's a portion of buying a piece of media. Like nowadays, people think of it as like, oh, well, you own it, so that thing can't disappear, and like greedy companies can't do things.
That would be segment 6.
Yeah. But before, there was also a concept of like people who bought to collect were also people who shared.
Yeah.
So like in your cult, you were like, oh, you haven't seen this? I will bring it to you, watch
lend
it,
to
and
you.
then give it back to me.
Yep.
And it felt like you were a caretaker of the thing you were working on.
Unfortunately, companies saw that as lost revenue.
Right. Or like, if we can pay $3 to watch it once, and then we take it away.
Once libraries moved into accounts, 2 more layers stacked on top of that, subscriptions and games built on ongoing services. On the subscription side, the idea started out very simply. You weren't just paying once for a disc anymore. You were paying month to month to stay inside a particular world. MMOs like EverQuest, Final Fantasy XI, and especially World of Warcraft made that model feel normal. You paid a reoccurring fee, and in return, the game kept going. New raids, new zones, holiday events, balance changes, bug fixes, all rolling in over time. As that idea grew, platform-wide services picked it up. Console memberships that had started as ways to play online and get the occasional bonus download slowly turned into catalogs. Instead of buying one game at a time, players scrolled through lists of titles, including a subscription, downloaded what caught their attention, and moved on whenever something else appeared in the feed. At the same time, more and more games were built as live services. They assumed an internet connection as a baseline. Patches stopped being rare and became a constant stream. Systems, abilities, and entire progression models were things that might change not just once or twice, but repeatedly over the life of a game. Sometimes that change was incremental. Other times it was so drastic that people logged in one day and found that thing that they'd been paying for was no longer the same game. Star Wars Galaxy is one of the clearest examples. rules. When it launched in 2003, it was a sprawling, somewhat messy Star Wars sandbox MMO with a lot of professions, crafting depth, and non-combat roles. 2 years later, in 2005, the new game enhancement update arrived and rewired it. Whole professions disappeared, the number of roles was slashed, combat and progression were simplified and pulled towards a more action-focused design. Systems people had spent months learning and building characters around were suddenly gone and unrecognizable. For a lot of players, it felt like the game they had bought and subscribed to had been replaced overnight by a different product sharing the same name. Final Fantasy XIV went even further. The original 1.0 release in 2010 was widely criticized for performance issues and awkward design. Instead of just patching it forever, Square Enix made the unusual decision to end that version of the game, write its destruction into the story, and relaunch in 2013 as Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. Same name, same subscription, same broad promise of an online Final Fantasy, but a completely different structure, new engine, new zones, new quest flow, reworked combat. Players who stuck with the series effectively watched a live game die and then come back as something new under the same banner. Even when the changes aren't that dramatic, the pattern is the same. Major updates can alter how classics work, how loot drops, what content is available, or even which parts of the game exist at all. Content can be vaulted or removed. Whole sections of a world can be reshaped or replaced. The thing someone paid for at launch is not always the thing that exists a few years later. Subscriptions and live updates make it easier to keep games alive and evolving. They also mean that access is tied not to just whether a disc still reads, but to a chain of decisions about what a game should become. Compared to the days of renting a cartridge or buying a CD that never changed, there's a lot more movement under your feet. So one that hit me pretty hard was Cataclysm, World of Warcraft, because
you can't do those old quests.
Right. Up to that point, expansions have always been like, here's a new zone to go to. Here's a new place you're going to go to. And all of a sudden it was like, no, we're rewriting the whole planet.
Everything changed. Like, you're like, well, I can't go back to my favorite little things. Even if this is better well planned. I will bring up a little bit, like, comparing Final Fantasy XIV to Star Wars Galaxies is a little weird because they are opposites.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy XIV was something that had to happen, and everybody wildly claims that it is the best to have happened.
It's good that it happened,
but
right?
It is, like, functionally, it is the same thing. Because it was like, they were like, oh, we put out a product that is unacceptable.
Yes.
It's kind of weird, too, because if you play the game in the story, you constantly refer to the previous heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they did a good job, but you're absolutely right. Yeah,
right.
Like it's basically, if a company can hold on to it and turn something into a subscription rather than a purchase, they will do that.
Absolutely,
everything incentivizes them to do that.
That's when video games pretty much started to die out for me. Was the early 2000s. I got a job, I got married, I had kids. Subscriptions weren't an option because the money just wasn't there. It was not long after that was when I met you and we started doing the TTRPGs, and that's where I got my
fix
play time from, and
vastly cheaper.
Yes.
And I went to like first person shooters when we got away from the cartridges, and I started with Medal of Honor, and then I went to Call of Duty, and then pretty quickly Call of Duty all became about the multiplayer.
Yep. That's basically everything is about the multiplayer.
Fast sprinting, twitching.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like the really good storylines that they had in the first few Modern Warfares that's what I enjoy, and then it's gone.
Yep. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think there's been quite a bit of pushback against it, but a lot of production company CEOs have talked about how single-player games are dead. I think there's really been a resurgence in single-player games in the last 2 or 3 years, but that's their big push is, everything is multiplayer online. Like, that's where all the battle royales really pushed things in that direction.
Yeah, just the incentives changed. And that's the problem is, like, we demonize the companies for good reason.
Yeah.
But the problem is
you can do the
changed.
things that you do, just don't be an asshole about it.
Yeah.
And they're just like, no, we're going to be an asshole.
Especially when you get stuff like Baldur's Gate where like some company fights it they fight all the incentives, they do the right thing, it comes out, they have success, and then other companies are like, well, you can't really do that. And you're like, if you wanted to, you could.
Yeah.
But we understand that money is not like the motive that causes that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's love of the thing you're making to produce this expansive single player experience.
Yep. And that's basically where we are now. And we've hit a point where you can own a game or purchase a game from Amazon or Steam, never actually hold anything in your hands, play it, and then they can decide you don't own it anymore.
Yeah, and there's that thing that happened in Europe where they're trying to fight that.
Yep, Stop Killing Games. It's a movement that organized that. Where are we? Yeah. So 2024, Ross Scott, after the cruise shut down, was another game that basically online you can play single player, but it required an online service to be logged in when you're playing. And when that got shut down, you couldn't play the game anymore, even though you owned it. You couldn't do anything. So they argued that there's a lot of misinformation here. The companies will tell you that they can't afford to keep games servers running indefinitely. And the Stop Killing Games movement was not about the companies doing anything aside from making it available to the players to have their own funded and run servers. So basically privately run servers. It would cost the companies nothing, and the companies are just like, nope, can't do that. We don't want you to be able to do that.
Yeah, but it's so the pirate software thing where his take was awful. But yes. The point is, when you're talking about an argument of this, is like you're basically still asking or trying to demand companies be altruistic, and I'm like.
Well, I don't know if you're not really asking them to be altruistic. You're just asking them to, hey, you've stopped development on this. You're not making money on it anymore. Let us just have what we have.
Yeah, but from a company's perspective, even if the thing sits on the shelf for 10 years or maybe never gets picked up again, it's still their property. And at any moment they can take it, rebrand it as we're bringing out a retro version of it and launch it. They feel by handing everything over, even if you're just handing over just the infrastructure to do the servers, they're still giving up their control.
But I don't think this is locking them out from being able to do that.
Yeah.
Or are you trying to say it's more like a World of Warcraft thing with classic WoW?
I'm saying you're still expecting a company to view what they're doing as like necessary and supportive, even if you break it down to where like you're not losing anything technically by doing this. And the higher ups who are so removed are always going to view it as this is a loss.
100% agree.
And that's why 100% agree. I don't think you can ever do it, because they will fight. They will fight to tell the people who don't understand what's happening that they're talking, that they're going to make all the straw man arguments that.
Oh, absolutely. It's typical corporation bullshit. And like, I agree with you on that 100%. They're going to do whatever they can to protect their IP or whatever you want to call it. My counterpoint is stop being pieces of shit.
Yes. If everybody would just take that advice, everybody would be better. Oh God, we wouldn't get the third fucking Call of Duty upgrade with the knife skin for whatever stupid. We wouldn't get.
So the whole thing with the what game is it? Steam's Counter-Strike. The skins on that, where like there's literally people. They invest in skins for a video game, and they made an update where you could trade in lower end worthless skins, like multiples of them, to get these higher end, more valuable skins,
and it
crashed the market. Like, this sounds ridiculous, but people literally lost millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, there's a whole. I mean, that is a whole different there are podcasts that talk about these things with greater authority. But the point I think that you're getting at is just that the entire environment of video games and that part of gaming has just evolved into something that
needs to be shot and put down.
If you've been in it while it's been evolving, it feels like it's a
Yes.
sick creature.
Yes.
But like, this is what people who are now making video games grow up in, because
Yeah,
that much
they think
time
that's
has
the way
gone
it
past.
is. That's the only way it can be.
And you think back, and it all goes back to enshittification,
Oh,
that
definitely.
there is always a period of time where the consumer has power and the best time. Like, everything is catered around them. And then when that time passes and you enter into the squeezing blood from a stone, trying to make everything more profitable and stuff, then you end up into the shit.
Yeah.
And we just happened to find a couple of those things in our lifetime that we were there for.
Mhm.
One of them is video games.
Yeah.
So
one final question. How many games are in your Steam library that you've never played?
at least a quarter.
And how big is that library?
300. 318, something like that recently.
Oh my God.
I'm a bit lower. I'm in like the hundreds, but yeah, I'd probably say about a third.
I
that
want
I've
to
never
say
played.
that, like, remember, during this past summer, it
Yeah.
was like, hey, I should play Hogwarts Legacy. Everybody says that was a good game.
Oh, I own it.
And I went to buy it, and it was like, it's in your library. And I was like, crap. That was a $60 game I bought at some point in time.
There might be 30 in my library at the most, and I probably play a third of them.
So,
yeah, there was a period of time where Humble Bundle was throwing out a bunch of games.
so that's what I was getting at, was my wife is almost like halfway to mine, but like,
Mhm.
it's just because she has these massive humble bundle where it's just like redeem.
Yeah.
And she's constantly going through like 100 different indie games, deciding what, like, I don't generally do that. It's generally stuff I actually was going to try to sit down.
How's Coral Island?
I play that a lot.
I know. I've noticed.
It's just because it's so, yeah, this is way off. So what I've known you to have, the ability to sit at the computer and do
Yeah.
something while listening to something, I can only do it if it's repetitive.
Gotcha.
And farming sims are like the perfect loop for me. It's go in, water the crops, do the thing,
See,
sleep.
It's
Go in, water the
funny
crops,
too
do the thing,
because
sleep.
I mean you were big on Stardew Valley, and I remember you talking about it and with such a glowing review, and I'm just like, oh, this is dumb. I can't play this.
But I mean, you can sit there and play Rift World endlessly.
Rimworld. Yo,
endlessly.
dude, literally, I could sit down in the morning and play until it's dark out.
It's just, it's. our
I don't know.
single
I don't. Yeah, I
weird
know. I
personality.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. Okay. Anything before we?
No, I
close
think
off
we
here?
better. This is one of the
Okay.
longest podcasts we've had all year.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
All right. Hope everybody thought about their experiences in growing up and playing video games, and hopefully it's good.
I just think it was a wonderful way that you once again brought us to a point about crying and lamenting the past.
Go dust off the NES. Play it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, there's
blow
one in
in
that
that
closet
cartridge quite a
right
bit.
there.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.
All right. Bye-bye.